Welcome to the WRAL Daily Download. I'm your host, Amanda Lamb. North Carolina State University police are investigating a student's death from Monday afternoon outside of Sullivan Hall. The student was found dead outside of the 12-story residence hall. The circumstances behind the death are not yet known. Joining me now to try to explain this tragedy is WRAL reporter Eric Miller. Eric, welcome to the program.
Amanda, thank you so much for having me.
So I know we're going to be talking about this in real time, and we might have some developments, which we will include online, of course. But we're speaking Tuesday afternoon. The NC State Chief of Police, Dan House, sent out a statement. What is he saying about, what happened?
Yes, as you said, details still few and far between at this point, but we know the police got the call right around 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon, and they found a student lying dead on the ground there outside of Sullivan Residence Hall. At this point, they haven't released a name, and they haven't said much about the circumstances of what exactly happened here. Obviously, there's been a lot of speculation, especially coming off the year that NC State had last year. We had 14 student deaths last year. 7 of those were suicides. So for returning students, for your sophomores, your juniors, your seniors, this is something that feels all too familiar to them today. For freshmen, it's something that they'd heard about, but we talked to several today. They're still, in many cases, struggling to get their heads around this.
Yeah, I can't imagine. And I know NC State's Chancellor Randy Woodson, put out some comments, and again, not saying exactly what happened, but really trying to put the community, help the community dealing with this grief. What did he have to say?
Well, at first, right off the top, he started with empathy. He said, quote, "There are no words I could share that will heal what many of you are feeling. Simply, I grieve with you." But then the rest of this statement, several paragraphs, was focused on pushing both students and staff here at NC State towards the mental health resources that they have here on campus. The university has spent a lot of time and effort over the past year trying to beef those up. In the wake of the first couple of deaths last year, they launched a student mental health task force. That task force wrapped up its work in February, putting out a very lengthy report detailing a lot of recommendations for things that the university needed to do to improve mental health on campus. And the university has started doing a lot of those things. They added 15 counselors before this school year, and that's included having a counselor embedded in each and every college within NC State. So there are a lot of resources here, and Chancellor Woodson wants to make sure students are using them. And the thing is that includes 2 that really stand out when you read this, one of which is basically a form that students or staff can fill out to essentially flag somebody, to say, hey, my friend, or hey, my coworker, my colleague really seems to be struggling, really seems to be going through a difficult time. That's something you can submit anonymously, and essentially it allows the university to then step in and get that person help. And then the other thing was the suicide crisis hotline, 988. I mean, that was there very prominently in this statement put out by Chancellor Woodson.
Okay, we will talk more after the break. Welcome back to the WRAL Daily Download. So, Eric, before the break, we were talking about the fact that they haven't labeled what this death is at this point. They haven't said anything. I mean, it's very early in the investigation. And again, you and I are speaking on Tuesday afternoon, so we might have more developments overnight, which we would certainly include in our coverage online. But right now, we know that a lot of the information that's coming out relates to emotional issues, mental health issues, and giving students options if they are not doing well. Because again, they've had this history at NC State and really across the country of seeing an increase in mental health issues and unfortunately an increase in suicide. So tell me about some other things they're doing. I know that they have had some wellness days where the focus really is trying to help students who may be struggling or having anxiety heal.
Yeah, no, they've had wellness days. They've been trying to be much more visible when it comes to making sure students are aware of these mental health resources on campus. So we interviewed a number of NC State students today, freshmen and sophomores, talking about how they see the university's efforts to improve student mental health, and generally they were very complimentary. Several students pointed out that these resources were baked in to their welcome to campus. They had sort of lengthy explanations about what the university was offering. It was mentioned in Chancellor Woodson's note at the start of the school year. Keep in mind, that was 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago that note went out. Of course, Chancellor Woodson highlighting that again today. So the university has been doing a lot to try to make sure students are aware of this. And at the same time, in the background, they're working on implementing more of these task force recommendations. There were 10 long-term recommendations that included having mental health screenings for students here on campus. It's not really clear right now what the timeline is for those longer term recommendations. Again, we know they're being worked on right now. That's something we're talking with NC State today, and we'll hope to have as part of our coverage going forward.
Yeah, and I mean, these students, I feel like in this day and age are dealing with so much more stress, at least certainly than I had when I was in college. You look at what happened at UNC Chapel Hill last week and just the horror of that situation, that they have to think about things like safety on campus, that they have to think about things like losing a friend or a classmate in this situation. So I guess overall, how are the students coping? I mean, you've been talking to them today, and this is very fresh.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on who you're talking to. Some of them seem to be doing well. Again, there's a split between the younger students and the older students. The sophomores, juniors, seniors. They went through this last year, so this is something that they have already seen, and they have seen the university trying to respond in real time. For the freshmen, for the first years, it's a little bit different. And one student we talked to said he wasn't sure how to feel about this when he first heard about it. He's still not sure how to feel about it today. We talked to another student who he was one of the people who was first at the scene. He was one of the first students to walk up even before police had arrived and found the student's body. He was there as the student was calling police, calling 911, and talking to him today. He was clearly still very shaken up.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine anybody going through that, but especially a young person. I mean, that had to be horrendous, and the fact that he was able to talk to you about it, I think is pretty unbelievable too. Well, go ahead.
The thing was, he said he's been talking to his friends. He said he's been trying to play sports, racquetball, as a way to process this and deal with this. And I asked him, have you taken advantage of all these mental health resources? Have you gone to the counselors? And he said he's thought about it, but he hasn't done it yet. And I think that's kind of the biggest challenge that the university is facing right now, is getting students, particularly students who need this help and need these resources, to actually take advantage of them, to make that leap from needing help to actually getting help. And there really doesn't seem to be an easy answer on how to bridge that divide.
No, and I'm sure they're going to continue to work on that, and you will continue to work on this story and bring us more information. So thank you so much for taking time out of your reporting today to share this with us. For more news from WRAL, sign up for the WRAL Morning Briefing newsletter. You'll be informed and ready to face the day with one concise email. Sign up at WRAL.com/newsletter. As always, thanks for listening to the WRAL Daily Download.